This video is going to provide an overview of different ways in which you can provide feedback to your students in its learning. So in this video, we will discuss how to message students as well as various modes of feedback that are available in its learning assignment. The first thing we'll talk about with regards to student feedback is the messaging options that are available in its learning. So as a teacher, I am able to message one or all of my students in my class. Students have the ability to message me, so students can initiate a message with me, but students cannot message one another. So when I am in my course, if I click on my messages, I have the ability to send a new message, and I can send that message to all of the students that are in my NAP demo course. This is how it will appear for teachers who wish to send messages to students enrolled within their courses. I have two options here. I can send individual messages to each course participant, which means each member of my course will get their own individual message. Or I can start a group conversation. We strongly encourage you to send individual messages to each group participant, as sometimes group conversations need to be monitored all the time, and that places a heavy burden on the teacher. So I'm going to remind my students that their vocabulary work is due by Thursday. I have the ability to put an attachment to my message as well. And now I'm going to send my message, again, individual message to every participant in my course. I'm now in as one of the students in my course, and when I go to messages, I see that my student has the message that I sent them, and the student can write back. And when the student writes me back, and I am back into my teacher account, I will see that I have my message from the teacher. These messages will populate to its learning. There are alerts that will let you get an alert on your HCPS email if you get a message, but oftentimes these go to junk. So we do recommend that you check these messages regularly. So I'm going to show you one way in which a student can provide feedback to students. Teacher can provide feedback to students. My students completed a CER on homeostasis, and my sample student has completed her work. And when I go into my course as a teacher, I see that I have a follow-up task. One of my students has completed her CER. So when I click on this assignment, as a teacher, I am brought to the assignment. I see all of my participants and I see who have submitted their work. When it says not corrected, that just means that I have not yet evaluated that work. So I'm going to look at my student 3. And when I look at my student 3, I'm able to see her answer here. And over here, I have places that I can give feedback. So I can change the status of this assignment based on the scale of grading that I added. In this case, I'm going to ask my student to submit a new answer. I can provide text feedback to my student. I can also add a file. So perhaps I have an anchor CER that I want my students to look at as she makes corrections. I also have the ability to record myself as feedback. So if I hit the record button, I can give either audio or video feedback. And when I do that, it's going to use my front-facing camera to record myself. So I am able to record my feedback to my students, and I have to record at least 10 seconds of feedback in order to be able to stop. The maximum amount of video feedback I can have is 10 minutes. A lot of our language arts teachers like this because they're giving more specific feedback on a student's writing, and this kind of allows them to be able to conference with their students, which they may not be able to do during the confines of a class period. Once I've recorded my feedback for my student, it will process that video. And depending on the length of the video, it might take a longer amount of time. I can give my recording a name. I may want to call it feedback and the student's name just so I can keep that straight in my head. And then once I submit it, the student will have a file here that they can play on their own. I also down here have the ability to just discuss with my students. So if I put something in the discussion here, this will come through as a message to my students. So I'm going to save all of the different ways that we provided this student feedback, and we're going to take a look at how it looks from the student perspective. So this is my example student who has submitted work, and if I go into that homeostasis CER, I will now see that I have that feedback from the teacher. I can see the video that the teacher recorded, and I also have that note that the teacher wrote where she said, I provided you additional. This comments area is nice. So where my teacher wrote me a note, I can write back to her and say, and when I post that comment, that will go to my teacher. So this is almost like a discussion that we're able to have back and forth. And then on the teacher side, once I am able to refresh that teacher view because the student just made a comment, I'm again able to see that discussion that the student is having. So this is various different ways to provide feedback on an assignment. I also want to show you how to provide feedback on an assignment that is a digital pass out, because there are some unique features that come with this assignment. So on the student side, we're actually going to talk about the student side first. My student has this Frayer model assessment, and they are in a digital pass out situation. So they are working on the assignment here. It's automatically saving for them. So if they were to close, it would be saving their work. And I'm going to show you how this looks on the teacher side of things. So on the teacher side of things, if I go to that assignment, I again will see all of my students here and their status. And as I scroll down to my tech student, you'll note that the status has a little I next to it. That means that their status is saved as a draft. In other words, they're in the middle of working on it. When I click on this student, I'm again brought to this feedback view, and you'll note that I have all of my options here that we've talked about, but I can also see in real time what my student is writing, and I can write back to them if I wish to. So I might say here, and as I go back and look at it from the student perspective, I will see that the teacher has written that. So that's a nice way to give feedback in real time to a student, to provide support to a student as well.